This episode is brought to you by Zahabi. Zahabi is a jewelry brand specializing in men's rings, whether it's for daily wear occasions, daily wear occasions such as your nikah or Eid, and even Turkish and Yemeni rings for those who love aqiq stones. Here's what makes Zahabi special. Their rings are 925 silver, not copper or brass based, so they will not rust over time. Okay, now I'm going to go off script here. So I am not a ring wearer, but I might have changed my mind. Guys, so currently, what's the name of the ring that I'm wearing? Let me tell you. Okay, I'm wearing the Onyx King ring, and it's genuinely, it's the first one I loved. I opened the box. They sent me a bunch of rings and they're all amazing, but I really like the Onyx King. So if you're going to grab one, grab the Onyx King ring. I'm going to give you a discount code in a second, so don't grab it just yet. But honestly, I really, really like the rings. And so I think I've become a ring man. I think you guys are going to start seeing me wearing rings. Are you okay with that? There's going to be a big change in FC's life. I don't know why. It just looks like a really good ring and it feels like really good quality. So obviously the 925 silver thing makes sense. But I would really recommend it. So there's two options. You can give your ring size, which I had to go to jewelers, gave them my ring. I've asked them to keep my ring size. It's pretty easy. And then I just put it in. But the other thing is that they have adjustable rings as well. So there's this green one. Wow. Yeah, this is a green one, adjustable one. And so if you want to like surprise your husband or something and you don't know their ring size, then you can get an adjustable one as well. But Zahabi is giving Freshly Grounded listeners 20% off with the code FG20. That's F for Freshly, G for Grounded, 20 at checkout. So use the code FG20 at checkout when you go to zahabi.co.
خلاص بسم الله.
Yeah. All right, bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. Arnaut Danjuma.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you for always giving time to Freshly Grounded whenever we're in the same vicinity. It's very much appreciated.
It's very much appreciated to be always invited.
I mean, of course, we would never, we would any opportunity we get, we'd love to have you on. So bro, I want to start by asking you a question. I know that you're obviously driven first and foremost by kind of your faith, and so your go-to answer would be kind of faith related, and you speak a lot about Islam and the impact that it has on your life. I wanted to ask you from a secular kind of or mainstream kind of quote or anything like that, is there anything that you draw to that sometimes kind of inspires you? Because what comes to mind for me is sometimes I think about there's a quote called "The Man in the Arena." I don't know if you've heard it, and it's about it's basically it's actually a really cool quote, because what it essentially says is everybody has critics, and it says that the critic is not the person who matters, the one who kind of picks on people's flaws, and the true kind of win is being the person who is actually the man in the arena, and whether he fails or succeeds, he does so daring greatly, essentially, and that's what's like honorable. And the quote also says that kind of lowest kind of person is that timid person who has never tasted victory nor defeat, and they just kind of essentially like sit behind their computers and they just criticize, and really they're the true loser, right? Because they're quick to pick on someone when they fails, but the fact that that person even tried and dared greatly, even if he fails, is much better than the person who has never tasted victory or defeat. I find that quote quite inspiring, and I listen to it regularly. So is there anything that you draw on, whether it's through like when you're kind of maybe on the coach, heading to a game or anything like that, maybe like a quote or something that you like?
It'll be difficult to mention a specific quote, but I've definitely got certain routines, especially towards the games or just generally in life anyways, right? I'm a bit like you in that sense. I think I'm very quote driven anyways. I like quote, I like inspirations, sayings. So I'll say just before the game, so what I normally do, right? What I normally do towards the game is, I mean, the longer you're in football and the more you get used to it, the more you get used to the environment, the more that you get used to playing on a bigger stage, on a big platform, you get used to the fans, you get used to the whole ambience, right? Sometimes it kind of takes away your hunger a bit, and I'm very aware of that and I'm very conscious of it as well. So the thing that I always do, which is my secret, right, to make sure that I maintain my hunger, because obviously you come from a certain type of place if you begin to play football. and you end up in a certain type of place. And I'm still on the journey, obviously, because alhamdulillah, I'm not retired and not close to retiring yet, inshallah. But just to cover the distance and the gap in getting used to the lifestyle, getting used to the ambience, I think for me, I figured out who I am and what I stand for on the pitch. So as long as you figure out who you are, you will know how to trigger yourself as well, if that makes any sense. So I've noticed with myself that I need to make sure I maintain my hunger, right? And the biggest thing that I do before a game to make sure that I maintain my hunger is I'll listen to podcasts, I'll listen to stories of the Sahaba, and those things really get me going, man, before the game, man. Like, it just gets myself in a mentality again, as if it's my first game or it's my first time that I have to perform again. And that works for me, right? And it just goes back to what you just said earlier, all these quotes and all these people that I listen to on podcasts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for me, I just like to listen to stuff like that, and it just really gets me going, and it just gets me in this warmonger mentality where I'm like, yeah, no, it's my first game. Make sure that you nail it. Make sure you kill it. There are a lot of people that like are dependent on you in terms of as a football player, right? You've got fans, you've got people that you have to perform for. You have people that you genuinely, and I mean this, I think you genuinely have to give something back. I think it's a whole different ball game if people pay to watch you. So especially football is such a fascinating scene, to be honest with you as well. You get people who pay to see you, and I always tend to believe that I owe them like a minimum level of performance. Hence why the way that I experience football is quite intense. Because if I don't play a good game, or if I'm not able to give back what I initially wanted to give back, it really puts me in a bad mood, obviously. And I think that's good because it keeps me going, but more so I think it's good because it will always keep me motivated to give back to the people that deserve, I think, a good performance. So all these things, man, is important for me, man, getting into a right mentality, making sure that these quotes still get to me. I tend to read a lot of hadith before the game as well, because there's so many beautiful stories, so many beautiful narrations that about our pious predecessor that can get you going, that make sure that you're in the right mindset. And the deen is so big, man. You'll find whatever you need to find to get yourself going, to be honest.
So it sounds like when you're going to a match, it's like you're like preparing for battle in your mind.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Football is war, man. It's war. It literally, it's difficult to give people an insight just by talking. You have to experience it, and even the experience, you'd have to be a certain type of way to make the experience feel intense and worth it. But my personal way of experiencing football, it's the minute you step on the pitch, it's war. 100%. It's if you win, you're able to keep your fans happy. If you win, you're able to help the club that's contracted you, make sure that they're in a better position. If you win, there are many people in the club that benefit from it. If you lose, the people from the club don't benefit from it, your teammates don't benefit from it, you don't benefit from it, your family doesn't benefit from it. And you've got this massive list that just goes on and on and on of people that benefit from it when you win, and people that don't benefit from it once you lose. So for me, I'm very conscious of that, and I think as a football player, I think you should be conscious of that, because there are a lot of people that are dependent on you, and again, someone pays to see you, you have to perform, man. So for me, quote unquote, is war always, yeah.
So let's talk about let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is kind of your last 6 months. So the last 6 months you've been at Tottenham, been in North London, and there's probably like a lot, so many questions. I'm sure be careful with ones that I ask. So first of all, how was it? How's it been? I was lucky enough to come to a couple of your matches when I was in London, and Jazakallah khair for the invite. And just like the stadium is impeccable, like from the perspective of the crowd and like the ambience and just the facilities. Before that, I've been to a few stadiums, but Wembley Arena was quite great. But I want to say Tottenham Stadium, I felt it was better. Like in terms of Wembley, obviously has a big connotation and is great for the kind of what it stands for. It's like England Stadium and stuff like that. But there was something about Tottenham Stadium, just it just felt like just an amazing atmosphere. Are you able to appreciate that kind of being on the pitch, and generally, like, how did you find the stadium and the facilities and stuff like that? And then maybe after we can speak about like generally like the journey.
I think that the Tottenham facilities, I think you'll be able to appreciate it not only on the pitch but off the pitch as well. The stadium, it is very impressive, obviously. So playing there, obviously, the experience for me was just a sense of appreciation as well, obviously, because there are not many clubs out there that are willing to I think invest the way that Tottenham has invested in the stadium. And I think you see as well what they're trying to achieve with the stadium is that there's a Formula One, I think, track. What's it called? A race track course that's been built underneath the stadium.
Isn't there also like isn't it like you can remove the football pitch and then it becomes like a American football pitch or something?
Yeah, and they're like concerts and stuff.
Yeah.
So in terms of the just appreciation of the stadium and stuff, it's a very impressive stadium. Yeah.
And how was your time at Tottenham? Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How did you find it?
It's very. 6 months. It's very, very, very nice, to say the least, to be honest with you. From the minute that I got there, I think my teammates have been very welcoming. The staff has been very welcoming. The culture seemed very nice from the beginning to the end. I think the biggest compliment and the biggest appreciation I should have is towards the fans, to be honest with you, because from the minute I arrived, I felt that they really tried to have my back, some sort of thing. I think they were very...
Yeah, I saw a lot of, on social media for sure, I saw so much support for you from the fans. They really like brought you in, and that was lovely to see. Yeah,
it was lovely to experience for me as well. I don't think I've ever experienced anything on that scale before, because the fans from Tottenham, they are very very involved in the club. You can feel it as well once you're in the stadium, once you're out on the stadium, once you go for a walk or whatever. You always have a Tottenham fan coming up to you, and obviously you've got so many Tottenham fans, so you always come across someone. So the experience in general for me has been very appreciative, to say the least, man, especially towards the fans, because they've really had my back from the beginning. On social media as well, obviously I've seen a couple of it as well, how supportive they've been towards me. I wouldn't have a bad word at all, to be honest with you.
And what about Premier League in general? Because your last stint in the Premier League, I think you had an injury, and so it was quite like short that time there. And so this time, do you feel like you got to kind of like experience Premier League a bit more? Obviously, you went last year with Villarreal. You were playing Champions League, so you got to face some of the best clubs in the world. But this time, you had like slightly longer in the Premier League. How did that feel?
Yeah, I think it did, because of the player that I am today. So when I joined AFC Bournemouth, you're a different kind of player. You come with a different mentality. You come with a different character, even, maybe, right? Because we all develop in life. You'll get more mature. You'll get more wiser. So for me, it's the same. And I just I went to Spain, and obviously had alhamdulillah, a fantastic two seasons there. Not even 2, 1.5, I think. And then coming back, it's just different in general, just because you're a different human being.
Okay, so, and you mentioned Bournemouth, and something's come to my mind. So, subhanallah, your first goal this in the Premier League this season came against your old club, Bournemouth. How did that feel? What was kind of the emotions that you were going through and stuff? Talk me through that, man. I know personally, so I should say, I know personally, obviously, having been friends with you since your days at Bournemouth, how kind of special Bournemouth is to you, and you've expressed it to me, and like the fans and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm intrigued to kind of hear how that was. Like, it was so serendipitous that your first goal kind of was against Bournemouth. Yeah,
it was a bit dubious, to be honest, because as mentioned earlier, I really have an intense way of living the game, right? And as eager as I am to perform for Tottenham, obviously it hurts your heart a bit for your first goal to be against your former club, who's obviously like they've served me really well, and I hope that I've served them well as well. So it's a bit dubious, the feeling, to be honest with you. But I think I celebrated a bit too much as well after the goal. To be honest with you,
I was like, but was it like the emotions of the game? Because I think you guys were 100%. Down at that point. 2-0 down, was it?
Yeah. So I think it was the equaliser.
Okay, fine.
And as a football player, right, you represent the club that's on your chest. So at that time, I was just trying to perform and do my best for the club.
Yeah.
That obviously, that I'm on the contract with.
And I believe it was quite a great goal as well. Wasn't it like was it outside of the box or like?
I think it was a bit inside. Left volley though.
Yeah, decent. I remember it being a solid goal as well. Yeah.
And it's just, the funny thing is, right, I was speaking to my friends before the game actually.
Okay.
Before the game, and we're all like gossiping and saying, imagine if it'll be your first goal against Bournemouth for the club in the Premier League, because I scored on my debut as well. Make sure that you keep it cool. Obviously, you don't celebrate. I'm like, you don't even have to say it to me. This is my former club. Like, it's out of question, right? Like, you can't. I very much believe that you shouldn't, right? Especially towards Bournemouth, because they've been very, like, it's like a home for me, right? So I've really enjoyed my time there. But then there's just during the game, and then when the emotions kick in, it's just, I don't know, man. You just lose it a bit, and I think I threw my hands up like twice to get the stadium going a bit.
Yeah.
But it takes nothing away from the fact that I really love Bournemouth, and I just lost myself a bit there, man, in those 3-4 seconds.
Yeah, I think like it seems to be the nature of the fact that you're a professional athlete, because we've had we've interviewed a few professional athletes on here, and one common pattern I would say that with everybody that I've interviewed is that competitive nature. It kind of it seems to overtake, and the pro athletes are the most competitive people in the world, and I know that like you're the most loveliest guy. But if I'm like, we've done golf together, we've done bowling together, we've done the punch bag in the arcade, you just change, man. It's like you're laser focused on the task, and everything else goes out the window. And I think it's like watching it from the outside, it's really fun to watch, because you can see that there's something that you deeply care about. It's not just another 9 to 5 or something like that for you. Like, you're very passionate about whatever you do. You're like laser focused on it. So we did the punch bags the other day, and everyone was nervous to do it, and I went first, and then you just saw that number and you thought, right, that's what I've got to beat. And you just saw in your eyes, right, cool. Like, you're ready. Like, you had to go second, so you knew what you had to beat. It had to be a competition for you. And yeah, so we can say publicly that you beat my number, didn't you?
What was your number again?
Well,
452. Sir?
Don't embarrass me. It was like 760 or something.
What was my number
the
again?
Top score was like in the 900s. Mine was like 760.
What was mine again?
And yours was like 901. So yeah, you smashed it. That's what you wanted to hear. But shall I tell you why? Do you know what I think it is? So Onley was telling me after, you know how Onley, our friend, ended up getting like one of the highest scores? Turns out that it's all about your leg, and the power comes from your legs. That's what he was saying. So I'm not trying to make excuses here. You're a professional athlete. You've got legs. You got some strong calves, so I think you had the leg advantage there.
It's the calves, yeah.
Yeah, it's coming. The power was coming from the calves.
He was saying that to me as well, but I'm a bit adamant to believe that, you know.
That was just.
Is it just legs?
No, I'm sure there's a lot of technique to it. I think it's just a game, isn't it? But not to you, not Arnaut Danjuma.
You've got big calves as well, though.
People say I've got like biker calves, but I've never biked. People used to ask if I cycle, but I've never cycled. I think, as you know, my 3-year-old still walks on his tiptoes. So maybe it's just like hereditary. Like, we're trained from young to like just like work on our calves. Like, he's gonna have huge calves. I want to start with. But yeah, no, cool. So I wanted to get the Tottenham questions out of the way, because obviously, like, we don't know. I'm sure like a lot of people have questions kind of about, and I'm sure there's only so much you can kind of answer. But yeah, it seemed like you really enjoyed your time. You know, whenever you were on the pitch, you know, personally, and it's come from a biased perspective, I feel like you changed the pace of the game, and it was always exciting to see you come on and you made a bit. And bro, like your debut game, that was the FA Cup. That one?
Yeah, it was FA Cup.
Oh, that was just like the sweetest thing that could happen. Like, everyone wants to score on their debut, and it's just incredible, man. It's incredible. So yeah, I think alhamdulillah, things there went really.
You've seen everything as well, right?
Yeah, man. You have to.
You have to miss a minute.
I've never. I think since I met you, I don't think I've missed a Danjuma game. So, I mean, we have Freshly Grounded. Do you know what the Freshly Grounded audience like? They show so much love and appreciation. Like, even to me, like, they're always asking about you, and they're always happy and excited and eager. And when it comes to transfer window, I get like all the DMs. What's transfer window like, man? Like, because there's what's going on in real life. So, and that essentially, I suppose, only you and your agents know. Then there's, and probably like the various clubs who are interested. Then there's what the media report, and then there's like what the fans are saying and asking for and stuff like that, and you just see a mix of it, man. Like I've been like, again, like blessed enough to be around you, and so in certain transfer windows, and so I'm like speaking to you directly, and then I like will see something online, and I'm like, wow, that's like. Sometimes I'm like, wow, how did they get that information? It's so close to like it's so like close to the truth or something. Other times I see it, I'm like, well, how did they get that information? Like that's not even remotely like the way it seems like. And so it's always like up and down. And then with the fans, you just get so many messages. Like I get messages all the time. Like I can do anything about it. Like I have any say in this matter.
You
like
got the final say.
Yeah, like not even final say. Like I can't do absolutely anything. Like I have no say. It's just like a big world. And people are like, oh, tell Danjuma what's like. I'm like, I'm not telling you anything. I'm like nervous to come to you during transfer windows because I know like transfer windows must be such a stressful time. But what is it like, man? What are transfer windows like? Because obviously like they've been quite big for you over the past few years, haven't they?
Yeah, very hectic. They're hectic in general. For me now, my situation is pretty clear, isn't it? I came to Tottenham on loan for 6 months. So in talks with all the clubs that are interested now, because obviously I'm a loan player, so I'm still on a contract with Villarreal, so the plan is, as it says now, to go back to Villarreal and start pre-season there. There are a couple of clubs interested, obviously, and we're talking with whoever we're talking with, and on the back of those conversations, eventually you have to make a choice, and that's it, man. It seems pretty straightforward if I explain it like this, though, but for the finer details, if you really want to get a deal done in the best way possible, it's always hectic, man, in the transfer window. Just for the player in general, I think for the agent is doing his job, right? Because it's his job to look after the player and make sure that the talks are going favourable, that everything is going the way that it should be going. But for a player in general, it's hectic because are you going to move? Are you not going to move? Are you going to stay? What's in your mind? What do you want? What does the club want? Does the club wants to keep you? Does the club want to sell you? Do you want to leave? Can you leave? Can't you leave? Is there any suitable club for you that you're willing to go to? For me, there are so many questions always, and I always try to make sure that I get all these givens to make sure I make the right, maybe better to say the best choice possible in my career. So for football players, generally hectic the transfer window, man. You have to pack your bags. If you move, it goes like this. If there's a new club, maybe if it's abroad, it's just pack your bags, go. Family, friends, whatever, they have to come. You have to find something new place, new house, new car. What you're gonna bring, what you're not gonna bring. What's the plan for the upcoming 2-3 years? You have to plan ahead. What you're leaving behind. What you're doing with your family members. Are family members staying behind? Family members coming with you? Because obviously, family and relatives, they like to be as close as possible. So there's so many things, man, that go on, and just explaining it might seem pretty straightforward, but once you actually go through it, it's always hectic.
It also seems like players get a lot of slack during transfer season, because obviously, I suppose at the end of the day, the player is the star, the one that everyone sees, and maybe like everyone doesn't always realise there's so much behind it. Like you said, the club's decisions, people in the club, then there's the agents and stuff like that, and so there's like a whole team working on things, but at the end of the day it's the player who seems to get the love and the hate. And it's like sometimes like a lot of, especially when it comes to football fans, man, different clubs and stuff, so yeah, I can appreciate that. It's not easy, but look, we're on off season now, and so what's it like for you, man? What you're up to these days, and how are you training? Are you doing any training, or do you allow yourself any time off? I think we spoke about this last time. I think you said initially that you take a tiny bit of time off and then you're kind of back at it. But
I've changed that though.
Yeah, you seem to be. So obviously, I've been around you.
What are you going to say? I seem fat or in good shape?
I've been around you for like the last week, and you're training every day still. Like first thing in the morning,
100%.
You're in the gym.
No, I've taken no time off at all.
Yeah.
The day that the season finished, the next day I started my preparation already.
And is that the preparation that you get given, or?
No, so yeah, there's a preparation that I've been given from Tottenham that I stick by, and I do some extra bits as well, just to make sure, because I feel like any season is very important, but especially the upcoming season for me. I'm just focused on nailing it, man, and make sure that I can gain the most out of it again, as always, inshallah.
Yeah, you seem to be taking the upcoming season seriously. Why?
I just think in football, I think your prime hits late 20s.
Yeah.
So I think
we've seen that with a lot of players.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think the prime in football, you hit late 20s. I'm 26 now, right?
Which is young, I think.
Yeah, and especially I think nowadays with the modern technology that we have and the science and everything that comes with it, if you look after your body, you can play as long as you want, man. Look to
Carl Walker.
Yeah, Carl Walker, for example. Cristiano Ronaldo still playing. Benzema won the Ballon d'Or. How was he? 35, I think. You've got so much time, right? Due to the modern day science that we have and everything that comes with it, the technology, we've got so many ways now to keep our body in good shape that if you look after your body, you'll be able to go a long way. So I think players nowadays hit their prime late 20s. So I'm 26, and I just feel like I'm getting closer and closer to the prime years. So I'm just getting more aware of it and more conscious. And the older you get in football, the more you start to realize your body, your needs. And I'm just very aware of what I should do in off season now. I think I've reached the age where I know exactly how to treat my body, exactly how to stay on top of my nutrition, on top of my fitness, on top of anything.
It feels weird to hear you talk about you going into your prime years because, you know, that chat, like, just was it like last season or season before? I can't remember anymore. I think it was last season, but like early when the Champions League on, and it was like when you watch that and you see what you like, how you performed that Champions League, it was just, I think, I'm sure you're going to critique yourself, but from an outside perspective, it was just phenomenal to watch, man. Like the games and how far kind of you guys as Villarreal came in that Champions League run, and you know the match against United where it was just like everyone's still talking about it to this day. It's hard to imagine that even that you feel like that wasn't even my best, and I'm excited to see that kind of like, if that's how you're performing on the big stage in the Champions League, I just want to see more of Danjuma Champions League, bro. Like
I'll give it to you, inshallah. Don't worry.
Inshallah,
don't worry. It's true, man. I just feel you can get better every day, man. You can literally get better every day. There's so much that you learn continuously that you're not even aware of. Especially for me, I've learned. If you look back on something, when I reflect and I look back on stuff, and I reflect upon the previous 6 months, for example, there's still so much that I learn, man. There's so much that I can better myself in, and there's this whole new Danjuma that I am now compared to the 6 months before, and that just makes me excited for the upcoming season and the future years. To be honest with you, I just know that I can better myself in so many things. I've watched all my games back. I tend to do a lot for the game as well, anyways. I get told at least. I get told. So I watch all my games back, man. I get graphics and stuff about my physical activities that I've done during the season. I've acquired all the knowledge that I needed to do, and I've got my whole schedule and program ready for pre-season.
Do you feel like emotionally you've like improved as well? Because I remember early, like a few years ago, you've never seemed to have any anger issues or anything, but it seemed like, you know, if like, for example, you got taken down in a tackle, you would be like visibly upset. Not angry at all, but like, I think I've one time seen a tear come out on camera on TV, right? Like, you're like, oh man, like, because you just want to play. And I think this time around, I saw like a nasty tackle, bro. Like when you're playing for Tottenham, I can't remember who it was, but someone went at your ankle, bro.
Newcastle away.
Yeah, and when that happened, I was like, oh wow, like that looks. And I thought you're gonna be, again, not angry, but just upset, like maybe like feel defeated that you know you went through that, but it was different, man. It was like you picked yourself back up and you were running. You're back on straight away and you're on the ball. So have you had to go through like emotionally training yourself to like when that happens just kind of dust it off?
Yeah, you develop and evolve yourself anyways. I think maybe that's one of the things that I secretly got better in without even realizing. And to be honest with you, that tackle was not.
That tackle was nasty, man.
I've still got the like bruises on my leg because of it, literally here on the right side.
Man.
And
yeah, because you sent me a picture after he was bleeding.
Yeah, and he didn't even get a car for that as well.
Yeah, I know.
That's mad, isn't it? But anyways, besides that,
as is the nature of the game, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe you start to realize that you're not really in charge anyways, right? As long as you don't have any cards in your pocket, you can't give them. So
well, like in boxing and MMA,
might as
they
well
say
just get back up, man, and make sure that you try and impact the game in the way that you can.
I was gonna say in boxing and MMA, they say like don't leave it up to the judges, and so I suppose like the same thing counts in football. Like don't rely on the decisions of the ref, right? Like so you got to give your best performance.
The ref is in charge anyways, right? At the end of the day, you can only influence the ref so much. Just make sure that you focus on impacting what you can do, which is making sure that the ball goes between the posts. That's all you have to do, right? And
so, okay, fine. So let's try and take it off football if possible, but I think we're going to end up back on football. You're in, so you've travelled a bit while you've been off. You went to Dubai. How was Dubai? Do you enjoy being like around like a in Muslim country and, you know, somewhere you hear the salah, you hear the adhan, out loud and stuff like that? How does that feel?
I think Dubai is a fantastic place, man, especially to come to after football. The reason for me why Dubai is great, right, is just because of what you mentioned. It's just the weather is nice. I think the quality of life is good. I think you can really rest here. I think Dubai is a lovely Middle Eastern country that's a bit westernized because you see so many people from the West as well coming, right? So it just feels closer to home. And for me, I always try to go to Dubai a couple of days. Meet up with some friends, come here, do a podcast. So Dubai for me is a lovely place, obviously, to go after the season always. Before Dubai, I went to Tokyo.
Oh yeah, how was that? I saw the picture of Mount Fuji.
Yeah, man, it's unbelievable.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a friend of mine, Mehdi, childhood friend of mine. Very, 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 very dear for brother to me as well, close to my heart. So we went, just the two of us, we went to Tokyo for 5 days. And we've always wanted to climb Mount Fuji, like
really?
since young. So it's always been on like our bucket list kind of thing. So this year we just said, look, I don't know when you're free. We're just gonna after this. This is when I'm off. You pick and choose the dates. We're going, right? And he said this days I can go. These days I can go. These days I can't. I said okay, fine. We're gonna go these days. And then we went. And Tokyo, to be honest with you, I've heard some amazing stories about Tokyo, but being there myself is very nice. I really enjoyed it. Not only climbing Mount Fuji, obviously, but just the city center and Tokyo itself is very nice, very clean. The people are lovely. People are very kind. So going to Tokyo for me was a nice experience. It was really enjoyable. And then the last day before we came back, we climbed Mount Fuji. And we booked it in advance as well because it's just, I don't know, it's just on our bucket list, man. And to be honest with you, it's tough, man.
Is it?
Yeah, it took us 9 hours in total, one day.
No way.
Yeah. Well, you thought it was a little bump.
9 hours.
9 hours, so 4 hours to go up.
You must be shattered after.
4 hours to go up, and then the horrible part comes just 5 hours down.
SubhanAllah.
9 hours in total.
How is the culture in Japan? Because you hear so much about the culture being so different, but you see like videos, images of kind of different like, you know, vending machines that sell all sorts, or you see like hacks and kind of like inventions that you don't see in the West. How was that? Did you get to experience any of that?
Yeah.
Culture was good?
Yeah, it's so impressing and interesting at the same time because there's so much you can take from it.
Yeah.
For example, one of the things that really impressed me is the infrastructure. Unbelievable.
Really?
Trains,
like roads and stuff.
Trains never late. Undergrounds always on time. Like you can travel in Tokyo without a cab, without a car, to literally everywhere you want,
really?
and just it's easy, cheap. Never the undergrounds trains never late, quick. They are rapid. It's amazing. One of the brothers that lives there, there's a brother of mine that lives there as well. So we met up with him. He explained to us that when the train or the underground, one of the two, comes late, maybe even both, once they arrive late, there'll be someone who comes into the train and hands out a small paper to everyone in the train single-handedly that says sorry for being late.
Really?
So they literally get something that explains to them.
Wow.
With an apology. Sorry, you're late. So the people, when they arrive at work, they can give it to their boss.
Okay.
And then it shows that they are legitimately late. Wow. And they've got a good reason, they'll be let off. So it's just those minor things, man, that is just and it's just unbelievable, man. Like the trains have never been late. You literally get an underground every like 2 minutes, and it's like never late, never full, always plays. No one speaks. Is the most busiest, quiet place on earth I've ever been.
Yeah, you hear a lot about like great manners.
Yeah, really great manners, man. Even in trains, I don't think I've heard a single word, let alone letter, coming out of someone's mouth.
Really?
Like they don't speak at all. Very polite, very quiet. When they give something, they bow. Once they take something, they take everything with both their hands, not one, because it's rude. They take stuff with both hands. So it's very interesting, man. It's very impressive, and there's so much to take from it. You see what I mean? Because there's some of the things where you look to and you're like, oh, I can actually implement that in my life, or we should do that in the West kind of thing, because of how nice and how polite and how kind it is.
Yeah, it also reminds you of, like, for example, the importance of, because obviously we hear so many things from the Sunnah that's like good manners that we don't implement ourselves. Like the Prophet ﷺ would face his whole body towards a person when he's speaking to them, or he would the way he would knock on a door. Ustad Abdul Ahad came to the podcast and told us some of the stuff with manners, just like the way
ring on a bell goes to the side.
Exactly, things like that, man. Like so many other things, just like saying your name. Sometimes people knock and it's like, who is it? And like, me. And that it's against the Sunnah. Like, you should say the name so people know. These little manners and things, like you said, taking something with both hands, they actually go a long way, don't they? And I always find that the kind of aspects of communication that remain with me the longest when I'm with somebody are definitely the non-verbal pieces of communication, how they behave, rather than kind of the words that they say, right?
Yeah. It's true, man. The deen itself is manners, right? So whoever feels in their manners, they will feel inevitably a part in that deen as well, 100%.
How do you balance that with, like, because the world that you live in is such a competitive, aggressive world where you have to take your opportunities and you have to fight for opportunities and stuff like that, and balancing that, and it's a very like dog eat dog world. How do you balance that with also like having a personality? Because it seems like in football maybe like the nice guys will end up last, right? So like you have to like be nice, but then like because that's your personality, but then you have to like be able to like have this like aspect of you which is like, you know, somewhat aggressive, right?
I think it's a balance, and I think it actually goes hand in hand. I think someone who is very competitive, but on the back of that he maintains his manners and his discipline and his kindness, and is still kind and polite to the people, I think that goes a longer way. And I think someone like that has got more virtue than someone who's not, obviously. And I think people will respect the individual more rather than someone who's not. Because at the end of the day, you can win as much as you want in football, right? And which you should strive to do. You should strive to win as much as you want, as much prizes, which you should always try and be the best version of yourself and try and go for the highest possible. But I think at the end of your career, once everything settles and you've got all your trophies, and you've got all your medals, and you've got all your prizes, I think knowing how to hold yourself and manners and politeness and kindness and helping the people and giving back, I think is very, even more so important, maybe, even at the end of your career than winning the trophies, right? And I think people will respect it inevitably more than just someone who's won something and kind of not thought about the people around him, or kind of always stayed rude, or doesn't speak politely, or doesn't have those manners. And I think it's proven by the past professional athletes that we still speak about. If you look to, for example, Muhammad Ali is one of the greats, right? One of the giants. Is he the best boxer to have ever lived? People can argue the fact that he's not, right? But there are many people that still hold him to that title. But why is that? There must be something else that add to his boxing for people to still say he's the best. So I think at the end of your career, you come with a whole package, right? Not only with the trophies you've won, with the prizes and everything that comes with it, but I think with the manners and politeness and kindness and what we just said, giving back, helping other people, giving back to the youth, making sure that you try and inspire them in the right way possible, I think that goes a long way as well.
We were at a place recently the other day, and we were walking out of a store, and this kid wanted to get a picture with you. And he was with his brother, and his little brother was very, very shy, and he almost was like walking away, and you could tell he wanted a picture as well. And I saw you kind of pulled the brother and you said, "Hey, don't be shy, come here, get in the picture as well." And then, you got a picture with both of them, which I thought was lovely. And the kid was so happy after, like, that he got a picture with you, right? And is that? Do you feel like that? Do you feel that responsibility now? Because it seems like you get recognised way more now, like since over the past few months, especially like with kids and stuff. Do you feel that responsibility? Are you getting noticed more?
Yeah, I think so.
Or it's like different regions, I suppose, like because in Spain with the Liga and stuff, it's like.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you play as well, right? Because if you play in Spain, you'll get recognized more in Spain. If you play in England, you'll get recognized more in England.
Sure.
But in general, the bigger footballer you become, the more fame you get, the more you get recognized. I mean, it's a cycle, right? So it goes on and on and on.
Do you feel the responsibility with the kids?
100%, 1,000,000,000%. I feel
because that kid's gonna remember that for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and it comes from a place where I know I've been a kid myself as well, and I knew I wanted the autograph and signatures and their boots and their tees and signed shirts and everything from the full players as well, right? So I know what it would have done to me when I was young, and what it did to me from all the players I got something from, or even a nice message or just a picture or anything like that. So knowing what that felt like to me as a kid, I'm very conscious of the fact that I want to like replicate that feeling for other kids and try and put them on the pedestal, make sure that they feel kind of way and give back to them, and make sure that one day, inshallah, that they'll be able to give back to the generation after them, right? Because that's in the end, that's all that you can do.
Isn't it crazy that like one moment in your day that you could forget about if you weren't kind of fully attentive to it is something that would stay with somebody else for like the rest of their life. I remember when I first ever met someone who I admired, and for that individual who is an incredibly famous sports guy, for him it was just probably like, it was actually like a book signing. So for him it was literally like I was another number on the like all right, yeah, his book. But for me, I've never forgotten that day and the picture that we took and everything around that day and stuff like that. And so I suppose, like you're saying, like empathy has to play a big part of it. You have to realize that for that person, that might be the only time they meet somebody that they've seen on telly or someone that they want to be like. And I suppose it can get monotonous, or it can get like repetitive, just meeting individuals. But yeah, having that empathy must be so important, man. Just like remember that for that kid, that's something special.
I was reading a best sayings book of Ibn al-Qayyim, and he explained in his book that there are two types of generosity. Did I explain that to you?
No, you wrote it on Twitter and I saw it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Go on, now what did it say?
He said that...
it stick with you as well. Go on.
Yeah. He said that the person... something like giving... the person who gives without remembering, and the one who receives and never forgets, right? Is that the one?
But that's a different one.
Oh, that's a different one. Oh. What was the one that you said then?
The one I'm talking about is about generosity. So he explains that there are two types of generosity.
Okay.
One is spending from what you have.
Yeah? Spending from what you have. Okay.
Spending from what you have.
Okay.
And the second one is being needless of what others have.
You tweeted that as well, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So this book's the whole book's gonna be published on your Twitter.
It's gonna be published on my Twitter.
Yeah, no one's gonna buy the book anymore.
If you wanna go get the book for free, go on my Twitter.
So it's good, yeah.
Nah, it's just I've been posting.
So say it again. So spending from what you have.
So there are two types of generosity. There are two types of generosity in this world. The first one is spending from what you have, and the second one is being needless of what others have. So what does that mean? It means that someone can spend from everything that they have and they spend it on someone else, yet someone who's never given anything to anyone can be more generous than someone who's given everything that he has.
Wow, yeah.
Why is that? Now the reason why that is because when someone is needless of what someone else have, he generally wants them to succeed, and he generally wants them to see and do better in their life, right? But someone can give from what they have, spend it on you, yet be less generous than someone who's never spent anything on you, because it's easier to give something to someone rather than wish good upon them. And that's very powerful. And I think as a football player, as an athlete, as someone who's famous, as someone who's got a role to play in society, a bigger role, and someone who's looked up to, and someone who children, kids admire, I think you should be very aware that they are very needless towards you, and they generally wish the best for you, and they generally want you to do good. Hence why you should replicate the same feeling towards them and make sure that you give everything you can to them and give them the best words, the best kindness and everything, because you don't know how much it will impact them.
Wow, so true, because children are so pure, aren't they?
So pure, man. It's just you only 5 words and you can impact the child's life.
Yeah.
If you're going to live this life, you might as well live it meaningful, akhi.
Wow. Arnaut Danjuma, thank you so much, man, for always giving us your time. Ending it on such a high note. It's always a pleasure to have you on. I was very eager when you offered your time, and hopefully we can have you on again and again. And you're always welcome here, as you know. And you did a Q&A for us recently, isn't it? These episodes always feel so formal for me, because obviously we always like speaking off air and stuff like that. But it just like you put 2 mics in front of people, and I think we need to do an episode with all of the boys together.
Get them all.
Yeah, and then it would just be super super relaxed, wouldn't it? This feels too interviewee.
As long as there's no bowling in between us, you'll be fine. Or put a boxing ball in between us.
Yeah,
you'll see the real
you become
face
like Arnaut Danjuma, the pro athlete. And
man, on a serious note, thank you for your time, and I really, really appreciate it. It's very important for me to mention it, man. I really appreciate your time, appreciate your brotherhood, appreciate the way that you try and look after me and the people around you. And any time and being on this podcast for me is a huge honor, from the first time, the second time, the third time, and the fourth time.
And the fourth, yeah,
it's
amazing.
Always an honor.
Alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair, man.
Wafiq. Yes. Put down the podcast.
Assalamu alaikum.